dynamic duo, the tag team, Mr. Dre Davis. I be myself, Anthony Likes, and welcome back. It's been a while. Let me say this. You know what I'm saying? I think we talked last time we was basically talking about the first round of the playoffs. And we done went from the first round. We done went from the first round of the playoffs all the way to the NBA finals, man. But let me send this message out, send this link and all that good stuff. But as always, the NFL will always find a way to trump the NBA with no matter what. Usually the NBA is always the ones that's having like the splash free agencies and the splash trades, but we got one of the biggest trades that we probably seen in the NFL in a while. Myles Garrett, 9 years in Cleveland, held the franchise hostage last year to get more money after we thought he was going to get traded last offseason. Will now be going to the Super Bowl contending Los Angeles Rams for Jared Verse draft pick, and they only gave up one first-round draft pick for the all-time leader in sacks for a singular season. What is your initial reactions to this trade?
Oh, blown away. I mean, a little shocked, but I felt like if you paid attention close enough last year, something was in the works, and you kind of knew, Myles Garrett was happy with the money, but probably not the situation overall. But I mean, at some point, you got. Well, I ain't even gonna say it like that. I'm gonna keep it a bean. He didn't put the money to the side. Now it's not about the money anymore. Now it's about
legacy.
Going to win.
It's about legacy.
Like you said, he went and held the Browns hostage last year because he knew literally anybody that could pay that money would have paid him that money. They went ahead and secured that contract, got him the money up front, and now the Rams don't even have to bear that much weight from that contract because I know he got a heap of guaranteed money out of it, but. Definitely, probably, and I think that's something we talked about, in the NFL season, but it's probably definitely going to buy Sean McVay this last year, which everybody is speculating that it's going to be his last year, along with Matthew Stafford. They got some, we just watched the Rams like 2-3 years ago after going to the Super Bowl pretty much fall apart altogether. But now, here they are, and dare I say, they were a game or two away last year. Here they are again.
Mm-hmm.
Shaping up to be a game or two away again next year. And, first and foremost, Myles Garrett is somebody that's going to be there for another 4 or 5 years at least. So, on the defensive side, everything's secured over there. And then, you still got a vet OG quarterback on one side, and then you just secured your future in a draft with a first-round pick that they hadn't done, and they haven't picked but twice in the last 10 years in the first round, so they really don't care about the pick. But they gave away a first round talent, somebody that I think if Myles Garrett is going to be good for another 5 years, Jared Verse is going to be good for another 10 years. I think he is going to still make Cleveland a better team, especially on the defensive side. But yeah, it was a bombshell of a trade for sure.
All right, so if we start with the Rams, we're seeing what they did. They basically spent 2 years building that team, and when they won the Super Bowl back in 2021, they made the trade for what's my guy, Jalen Ramsey, and then they go through the season. Jared Goff takes them to the playoffs, but they peaked in I want to say the divisional round, or maybe they beat the Seahawks in the wild card round, and they lost in the divisional round to the Green Bay Packers. So then, I think, Sean McVay basically made the tough decision, like, hey, Jared Goff's a good quarterback, maybe at that time, probably even a top 12 quarterback at that time. I think now he's like at the bottom half of the top 10, if I say so myself. But at that time, a fringe top 10 quarterback. But he's like, hey, man, like, we got to get over this next level. Like I said, Jared Goff's a great quarterback, but, hey, we got to bring a guy in. And Matthew Stafford, Bennett was in Detroit for 12 years, just basically like just putting up numbers and just losing, big fish, small pond. Like, but even him having trouble staying healthy sometimes behind that putrid offensive line they had in Detroit. So they make that move. Then on top of that, trade for another Super Bowl MVP and my guy Von Miller. They do that. They bring in Odell. Also, they brought in Bobby Wagner as well, and they went on a run. They won the Super Bowl. Coming out of that Super Bowl year was another down year. It seemed like what I'm saying. So they it seemed like the times they made the Super Bowl the year after, it's just like it was just down years for them. But then they got right back on track. And then, Aaron Donald retires after the 2023 season. And now, bring us up to present time, they trade for Trent McDuffie in the offseason, which the Chiefs are always known for. They get a cornerback, he puts up numbers, and then they don't pay him. They go elsewhere. We saw they traded my guy Marcus Peters. They traded, I think, L'Jarius Sneed walked away in free agency, and now we see the Trent McDuffie situation. So if you're Chiefs, they drafted Mesidor, the cornerback, Delaney from LSU. So, hey, look, you might be knocked out the door, but we're not talking about the Chiefs. We talk about the Rams. But needless to say, when the Rams want to put the chips to the middle of the table and go all in and find ways to improve their team or find ways to build a championship roster, Les Snead, Kroenke, Sean McVay, all those guys, they're going to do that, and they're going to show that they're fully bought in. They brought Stafford back, 2 years, and I think, it's Super Bowl or bust, obviously, but I think they were running back if they happen to fall short in this season. Obviously, making a trade for Myles Garrett, they probably was already top 5 when it came to Super Bowl odds. I'm pretty sure they're like a distant first now. I'm thinking they odds are probably a lot larger than whoever may be the team second in Super Bowl odds. So the Rams are always going to show their hand, and like I said, they're going to push the chips to the middle of the table. They don't care about draft picks, you know what I'm saying? We can't go back and change yesterday. It's over with. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but as of right now, we're trying to win right now. And then once again, the Super Bowl will be back in SoFi Stadium, which they won the Super Bowl. They were the second team to win the Super Bowl in their home stadium. Now they can be the first team to win 2 Super Bowls in their own home stadium in the same decade as that, because this was just 5 years ago. So, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot going for the Rams, but what do we think about the other team in this? Like, Jared Verse is a great player. Obviously, he's no Myles Garrett, but Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2024. Obviously, they wanted to keep Jared Verse, but the Browns were not going to make that trade without another player.
I was just about to say, man.
Myles Garrett.
Like, don't let this. I know the big side of it is how much upside the Rams get from this, but don't let this trade fool you, because Cleveland just made a trade during the draft with the Chiefs that you just referenced. They got them 3 picks for the price of 1, which I felt like built some.
They have 11 draft picks next draft.
Yeah, and they doubled up on their first round picks for next year, which I think is really good. In a draft where I don't think in a year's time you're gonna need a quarterback. They still got Deshaun. They still got 2 developmental quarterbacks on roster, so quarterback's not the issue. They've got their running back issues figured out. They got some good receivers over there. They got some pieces. So don't let Cleveland giving up the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Don't let that slip through the cracks and make it seem like only getting 1 first-round pick in return is such a bad thing. And then on top of that, don't let it slip that they aren't getting a equal. And when I say equal, obviously Jared Verse has a long career ahead of him, but don't let it fool you that he could not be equal at some rate for Cleveland.
Yeah, no, it's almost like my team. We made the trade for Michael Parsons. You know what I'm saying?
But y'all got equal potential, equal production out of the trade, and that's
on top of that, added another guy from Green Bay. Just happened to just walk away in free agency. Rashawn. Yeah. No, we traded for Rashawn Gary, and then but we didn't give up much. And then Quentin Williams, Kenny Clark. We traded Odigizua. Obviously, we had to trade Odigizua. Got a pick for that. Got Donovan Ezaraku in the draft. Got last season. Got Deshaun Barham. Got So we got plenty of good draft picks.
So with that being said, after you just giving Myles Garrett all that money, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jared Verse is either still on his rookie contract or about to get ready to go into his 5th year.
He's only about to be in
option.
his no. He's only in his third year at the moment.
Okay, so you still have him for at least 2 more years minimum. So you get him for cheap per se for at least 2 more years. You get him to love you in 2 more years.
Yeah.
What a team that could be in a couple of years if they put the pieces together.
Do you think because there's a guy in New York obviously on the chopping block in Kayvon Thibodeau. Do you think the Browns make a move for him?
So,
possibly.
That could actually be a really good fit. I think I actually read somewhere today where he was looking at seeking a trade. At this point, with what they have offensively, I think you got to look at all avenues. Jerry Jeudy really didn't perform as well as what they wanted him to.
More so
season.
because of the quarterback situation, honestly, if you ask me. Because like when the quarterback play was somewhat consistent, he put up the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
But other than that, I mean, you gotta do everything you can at this point to make your team run as well as you can. But I mean, outside of that, like I said, don't let this trade, as massive as it is and as it seems to be lopsided, don't let it seem like only one team won this trade. Both teams got a lot out of this trade.
It's just, what I'm saying, it's just like it's easy to pick on the Browns because like they just make some of the most like head scratching decisions. Like, obviously the biggest head scratching move they made is with the Deshaun Watson contract and it being fully guaranteed and obviously not living up to the contract and and how all that situation played out, which he's on the final year of that, which is crazy how time just flies, so there's also that. And then we talking about that. I'm pretty sure like they're not finna just, if this guy is healthy and is able body and able to play, I don't think he's gonna be standing on the sideline holding the clipboard. Like he really just have to go out here and the job just has to be be doing so terrible at his job that like we got no choice but to sit you down. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just too much money sitting on the bench. And I lost my partner, but I'm gonna keep going. But yeah, so like, when it comes to that, in this situation, I think Cleveland, like, they're gonna be okay. Cleveland is gonna be okay.
Keep going.
Shout out to Spectrum, but yeah, Cleveland's gonna be okay. But yeah, like it's just like, what I'm saying, obviously when it comes to guys like a Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons or even potentially Max Crosby with the Ravens or the Raiders, but everything went the way it went with that. Obviously you're not gonna get that quality of like, you're not gonna get that one player, but you can get some comparable players to like, okay, to still fill some spots. Like, don't get it wrong, like the bright spot of the Cleveland Browns has like over the seasons and years has been the defense. We just can't get that quarterback situation figured out. And now we're going on. They came back. The original franchise relocated to Baltimore in 95. They reincarnated back in 99. And in that time span, I want to say like 40, 41 starting quarterbacks. So, they're about to be on possibly, if it's a new name, but possibly could be on their 42nd starting quarterback since 1999, since they came back into the league after being down for those 4 years in Cleveland. So that's really just been the biggest issue. Outside of that, honestly, like I said, the defense, Jim Schwartz been holding down as far as the defense goes. And hopefully they can and then rebuilding their offensive line as well. So it's just like, they got the defense. Obviously, you got to fill that void with Myles Garrett. It's probably going to take another draft pick next year, or even, like I said, the Kayvon Thibodeau trade, possibly, if they want to give up one of those draft picks and possibly a second, 2 seconds, or a third round pick or something like that for Kayvon Thibodeau, depending on how much they deem him worth. So, and as far as the Rams, they're going to keep doing what they always do. Like, I don't think they're going to slip off. I know you mentioned, like, Sean McVay probably being his last season. I honestly give this team 2 years. Obviously, with the trade, you see how everything goes. Obviously, everybody going to say, nah, this got to be the year they do it. But we seen, like, your team, the Miami Heat in the NBA, they put their team together the first season. We seen how that played out. They did not win the championship. I mean, obviously, everybody going to look at that as a failure. But if you peel the layers back and look like, the team when he's supposed to make it this far. So, it's going to be kind of a little different in football. So, it's just like, but yeah. But on to another trade. We was just waiting. This trade pretty much been in the air for months. Inevitable. But it was just Got to wait till some money get cleared up. A.J. Brown
Yeah.
being drafted to the New England Patriots. Reunited with head coach Mike Vrabel from when he was a Tennessee Titan. Drake May lost Stephon Diggs in the offseason. Now that spot's been filled with a wide receiver one. You know, granted how everything went down with A.J. Brown. He still had a 1,000-yard season last year. And he's only 28, soon to be 29. So he's still on the other side of 30. Because I know GM Dre, as soon as a player hit 30 in Madden, we getting them up out of there. Don't matter if they all pro caliber or not. So what are your thoughts on this one? Like I said, this is pretty much inevitable, self-explanatory. But, you know, still want to hear you out and what you got to say.
Yeah, I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth when I say this, because I feel like our relationship has outlasted a lot of stuff. But it's not always good to go into business with your best friend. And, you know, although a Super Bowl did come out of it, there was still, I think, a lot more that A.J. Brown desired of being a part of New England rather than just being a runoff or a distraction or a blocker,
Decoy, yeah.
you know, or whatever noun, adjective, pronoun, verb, whatever you want to put in there.
Okay, shaking my, there's an earthquake going on, yeah. But yeah,
You know, but AJ Brown wanted to be more. You know, just like we just talked about Myles Garrett. Like, at what rate does any person not want to be more? When you've already gotten paid, you want to be a champion, you want to be an All-Pro, you want to have a legacy. You want to have a legacy beyond being on a great team or a part of a great team. You want to have a great impact on the game and have an impact that lasts forever. And, you know, I think A.J. Brown being a competitor, some people are looking at it as a diva situation. I look at it as him being a competitor, him wanting to be one of the best, him wanting to be remembered as one of the best. And, you know, what we saw with Diggs last year in New England and what we know now from what we saw with Diggs and what we could see this year with A.J. Brown, oh, man, we just saw a team that was in the Super Bowl and probably could have used a A1 top 10 receiver. You know, and if this was 5 years ago, they had the A1 top 10 receiver. But, you know, fast forward 5 years, you know, A.J. Brown is one of those ones. And with, I think, a situation and a coach that he's familiar with, where he is going to be heavily relied on, he's going to be sought after, you know, somewhere between probably 10 to 15 targets a game, somewhere between 10 to 12 receptions a game. You know, he's going to have plenty of opportunity in this season to prove why, for at least the last 2 or 3 years, he knew he could push more out of the Eagles organization. You know, Sirianni, man, he did everything he could and was supposed to do. With that much talent comes a lot of problems. You know, you think when you get that much talent, it's supposed to get easier.
It's only one football, man.
It's only one football, just like it's only one basketball, it's only one baseball, it's only one puck. It's only so much, you know, in sports like that one person can do. And when 90% of the time the ball lands in the quarterback's hands and your quarterback is realistically a run-first quarterback, or you have a top, not even going to say 3, a top 2 running back in the backfield with him, there's not a lot of opportunities or times where you really going to feel like we need to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, Drake May, obviously, he emerged pretty early last year as an MVP candidate, and then there at the end of last year he kind of dissolved out. You know, I had a couple rough games, but I mean, what better opportunity than right now? You know, Drake May going into year 3?
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yes, sir.
Year 3, just was an MVP candidate last year, just was in the Super Bowl last year. You know, with all that put together, with the right coach, the right time, the Patriots made some moves this offseason in the draft and free agency that I felt like made them a lot better. Like you said, this whole trade was inevitable. It's been inevitable since the end of January, you know, up to they've basically been saying, you know, as of June 1.
You know, we had the whole situation, you know what I'm saying? I don't really speak on stuff like that, but we had the whole situation with that kind of, you know, it played into that pretty much, because it's just like, how is this person getting this information? How, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, everybody, you know, A.J. Brown had June 1 circled on his calendar.
Yes, sir.
You know, he's been knowing since forever that he is going to be a New England Patriot. And I think he, you know, just like with any great situation, man, you do your time, you do everything you're supposed to do. You go through those situations, and then some things just fall apart. Like I said, all good things must come to an end. Just because it ended doesn't mean that it wasn't beautiful.
I think offensively, because we got now Philly is now coming in again with an unproven a person calling the plays. You got a quarterback that apparently was a little bit resistant to run certain formations, allegedly. You got a running back that is pretty much like the focal point of your offense. Like defense are going to be centered around stopping Saquon and daring Jalen Hurts to beat you. I remember that one time around Thanksgiving what we talked about like was the situation with the Eagles, and we, what I'm saying, college is college, the NFL is NFL, but like when it comes to Jalen Hurts, it ties back to what was going on in college and what were teams doing in college. They were stuffing the box, Ken on the run, daring Jalen Hurts to beat them with his arm. Even in the Super Bowl when they beat the Chiefs, they were still daring Jalen Hurts. And in a situation like that, in the game, and Jalen played one of his best games in a situation like that, you go up to a Jalen Hurts and you shake his hand like, hey, good job. Like, what I'm saying? We took your primary, we took what y'all wanted to do away, and y'all did what y'all did. And granted, also, obviously, anytime we get in the Super Bowl, and we just seen it the last two Super Bowls, obviously, the defense always, the defense has always been there. So it's just like, but Jalen still had to show up and do his part, and the plays was made necessary. So like, but with this Drake May situation, as you said, MVP candidate going into the Super Bowl, you just ran into a buzzsaw for defense, man. That was just, they was on a wave. You seen how when they came into the playoffs, when they beat San Francisco, when they ran that kickoff back, I was like, yeah, this game pretty much over. AFC Championship game, you kind of gave me some flack for it when I called the NFC Championship game. I called it the Super Bowl, but the 49ers, the Seahawks and Patriots, that was nothing but the Seahawks. Hey, this our trophy. We just got to go through this 4 quarter. So we just got to play these 4 quarters and collect our prize at the end. So we just hit, we just here to collect our trophy. It just happens New England is the team that's in the way. But I think as far as like with Josh McDaniels and what he's able to do, like when he's not a head coach, we see he is one of the best offensive minds in football when it comes to just focusing on the offense and calling plays. Like, but when it comes to being a head coach, that's a different case. But I think obviously this guy's a proven coordinator, obviously because he kept getting head coaching jobs. Granted, they didn't work out, but he's a proven offensive play caller. So the system with AJ Brown. And that, I think it's going to be more so like how are we going to play this team? Like, they got Ramondre Stevenson. They got, what's my boy? Trayvon Henderson and all that. So, you know what I'm saying? So, they got the guys on offense, and then the defense. Patriots got a stout defense. And I know last year they were coming off that 4-13 season or whatever it was. So, they basically were schedule mergers. But what do we see? Anytime we see it, usually schedule mergers usually don't make the Super Bowl. Schedule mergers, like, they might win all the games, but then in the playoffs, what I'm saying, they're going to get outed as frauds. I mean, like I said, the Super Bowl, they just ran into the better team in the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. And even then, they were there was a few plays away themselves from having a chance to win that game. So it's just like, granted, they got going late. And like you said, they obviously could have used the A.J. Brown in certain situations. So, yeah, man. But I think, so this works out for both sides. But how much pressure do you think will be on a Jalen Hurts now, this situation happened? Because the microscope is already kind of big on him.
It just got even bigger. It just got even bigger. The weight just got even heavier because, you take away that big target, another set of reliable hands. You still got Smitty. You still got a lot of other talent on that team. And they still got Zach Ertz, right?
Not Zach Ertz. They got Dallas Goedert.
Zach Ertz is in Washington. I don't know. Yeah, I'm tripping. Yeah. They still got Dallas Goedert. They don't, like, again, this is just like the Cleveland and LA situation. Don't let one team seeming like they overwhelmingly won take away from the fact that the other team is still okay. Like, they are still perfectly fine. They are still in a situation where they're not just fit to lose. They're just not gaining as much traction as they had the year before. Now, the biggest thing is we saw a Philadelphia team that really didn't do that well last year, which was really, really concerning. And had anybody not named Philadelphia, if Philadelphia was even worse, any worse last year, y'all could have snuck in. But y'all were
Yeah.
bad. Washington was bad. New
Yeah,
York was
defense is just the
bad.
defense. It did like that's the thing too. So like when you get teams like you got a team like Philly, they can go in games and just like even if they close games, they can just out talent. They can out talent the teams. You know what I'm saying? They might have to fight tooth and nail, but they can just out talent the teams when it comes down to it. But at a certain point, it's only so far that you just out, especially in the playoffs, where you can just out talent teams. Especially a team like San Fran. Granted, they went with in the next round, but like a team like San Fran, they can sneak up on you and steal a game off you. I seen that happen. You know what I'm saying when they played the Cowboys. So it's just like, and especially like when you make it easy for them.
Not just that. I mean, like I said, like the writing was on the wall from how the Eagles picked in the first round. They went out and got Malachi Lemon. They went out and got.
They jumped.
And it goes back to your joke about me with Madden franchises. Like that you can go out and get a first round talent that in 3 years he'll be probably as decent, if not better, or equal to AJ Brown.
Yeah.
But you go ahead and ship off all that money in that age. You go get younger. You still got the nucleus of the team. You still got Elijah Moore. You still got Hollywood. You still got practically the same team. Just a little.
Got some, yeah.
Just not as reliable. A little bit younger. That's it.
Yeah, and it also depends on like Lane Johnson how he's gonna come back and all that, and then like the makeshift line. Then they lost some guys on defense. I can't remember who they lost, but they lost some guys on defense. So there's that as well. But I think saying Philly, the Eagles gonna always be the Eagles, but it's gonna be telling this year as far as what they can do. And do you think if it gets a little bit too rough, do you see them moving on from Sirianni in a way? I mean, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl too. Yeah. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl too, and they got rid of him 3 years later. So
Sirianni and Sean McVay are at the same crossroads with their respective franchises. They are highly regarded, highly respected coaches that are expected to perform and do more, and they are both at cap sizes on both ends, because where you had a franchise that just went and won the Super Bowl over one of the better, not even the better, one of the best quarterbacks of this generation, and then you come back from that and you don't perform nearly as well.
Yeah,
there's a massive amount of pressure on you to perform this year, just like it is with Sean McVay with a team that is right there on the cusp. So Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, both. The seats are warm. They're not hot quite yet, but they are very warm. I will say that much.
No, I think the Hurts situation. Yeah, like I said, it's as far as like scheme wise, you can kind of look at it like the same as Alabama when he was at Alabama. Like I said, they're gonna stack the box. Obviously, our game, our focal point is to take Saquon out the game and make Jalen Hurts beat us from the pocket with his arm and not even make him like be able to improvise and make plays. And then like it's gonna be a committee of receivers. Like I kind of joked about comparing this to like the T.O. McNabb. I call it T.O. McNabb 2.0. Obviously the difference is when they went to the Super Bowl. Well, they went to two. They won one, lost one. They only went to that one Super Bowl. Obviously A.J. Brown lasted a little bit longer than T.O. did in Philly, but we don't know. We don't know who the receivers were when T.O. got released from Philly. Like I think we had Freddie Mitchell. That's about the only one we know. So I had to dig back deep in the vault for that one. Obviously, I think they still had Brian Westbrook. But this team is, like you said, this team is still loaded. Like you still got Devontae Smith. You got Mekhi Lemon. You went and got Hollywood Brown, give or take. It depends on if he's focused or not. So, like, as far as, like, yeah, you can kind of look at the situation because it's it seemed like wide receiver quarterback issues, but T.O. McNabb 2.0. But as far as, like, after, post A.J. Brown trade, like, the receiver group post A.J. Brown trade is way better than the receiver group post T.O. And then, like, you got, you got the nuclear weapon in the backfield as far as Saquon Barkley goes for a 2,000 yard, and still had 1,000 yards. I want to say still had 1,000 yards last season. So yeah, it's still, it's still like, bright spots in Philly, but then, it's something that pretty much had to happen. And now the grand finale of things. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is finally here. It seems like The season just started yesterday, you know. Championship banner night, ring night for OKC, taking on the Rockets in a beautiful game. Opening game that night as well. I think it went, 2 overtimes, if I'm not mistaken, at least one.
It did.
You know, then you got the Christmas Day games, and then you had, you know, the Cup, well, not the Christmas Day, I'm sorry, the Cup game, which is the finals matchup, and the Knicks and the Spurs. The Knicks has the 2-1 edge over the Spurs in the season. I know we usually don't, you know, when it comes to the playoffs, and if a team has beat a team in the regular season, like, you know, Spurs beat Thunder, like 3 or 4 times in the regular season? And then usually, like, when you get to the playoffs, it kind of changes. Like, usually teams like that, they lose in 5, 6 games, even get swept sometimes. But the Spurs just, you know, got their number. They match up well, and obviously, you know, the whole Chet Holmgren situation. But outside of, like, obviously, like, a Wemby, a Bronson, a Cat, either team, what player or players need to step up big time in this NBA Finals series to give their team a chance to win?
Where do you want to start? You know, you got players on both sides that could really, on both sides.
I know who I'm going with the Spurs, and we already talked offline as far as who needs to come up with the Knicks.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, I don't think there's a particular person on either side that I'm just like, hey, this is the person that needs to step up on either side, because both of them have a great cast overall. They both have great starting fives.
I think the Spurs, the Spurs bench is a little bit deeper than the Knicks.
Yeah, I think the Knicks just show that grit, and they have that front load that really helps them out. You know, if there was anybody on the Knicks that I think just overall would be the spark, the difference. And I know Landry Shamet just had a great run in the last couple games, but I really need Bridges to be that guy off the bench that makes that big difference. I think his 10 to 15 in at least 2 or 3 of these games makes a big difference. You know, I would start with him, Josh Hart, and Landry Shamet on the Knicks side. You know, obviously Castle plays a big role for the Spurs already. So, you know, but if not him, I really want to see De'Aaron Fox healthy and be able to attack very well. Obviously, Dylan Harper's another guy that I'm like, all right, cool. I want to see him do what he needs to do. But the guy that I really want to see step up the most from the Spurs,
Harrison Barnes. Bottom line like hell.
Yeah, I wish I could say that, but I'm saying this from a.
He the only one to ring. He the only one with a ring in this series.
Yeah, I'm picking this guy from a sympathetic standpoint just because I saw something in the last series, and you know I saw him kind of be challenged by his coach. But Carter Bryant from the Spurs, you know, he's a rookie in this type of situation. He's got a lot of good minutes in the playoffs. You know, I don't know what would go into their strategy tonight or as the next 7 games, if it even goes 7 games, you know, will be. But that's just one of my selfish takes. You know,
do you think that rotation shrinks? Because
shrinks even more. If we could shrink it to 7, we would shrink it to 7.
Because it seemed like the Spurs threw a lot out there versus the Thunder. Like it's because you know we got Keldon Johnson, we had Luke Cornett coming in. You know what I'm saying, making one of the key plays in the game 7. Yeah, we got Dylan Harper coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying? But with me, you name one of the wings for the Knicks, I'm gonna name the other one. I'm gonna go with OG Anunoby. Yeah. You know, sometimes they be leaving him open at the 3. And as far as for the Spurs, obviously, like I said, I got De'Aaron Fox because De'Aaron Fox did not have a great series versus the Thunder. Like, except I think the game 7 was probably his best game because I know what the game 5 and 6 he scored more points in game 7 combined than he did in games 5 and 6. Another one, especially like when you know what I'm saying, there's rumblings, you know, on it, you know what I'm saying, all through the the NBA media, social media world, like, hey, Dylan Harper need to be the one that's starting in that position. And also a Keldon Johnson, not Keldon Johnson, but with him as well. But a Julian, I call him Champagne Splash, man. Julian Champagne, can he keep up putting up them numbers that, like you said, that 10 to 15 from Mikal Bridges? Can Julian Champagne be the same way? Them 15, 16, point outings that he be having, knocking down 5, 6, and 7 threes. So it's just a lot. And then also, Mitch Johnson versus Mike Brown. Like which coaches are gonna do some? Because you remember last year, even we was talking about how Rick Carlisle was putting up coaching master classes in the playoffs. So which coach is gonna be out here just playing the ultimate chess move, making the ultimate chess moves, and doing little things here and there to give themselves a chance to win. And then also, we're going on once again, 8 different champion. It seems to be the norm because it's starting to get to a point. I'm just gonna go out and ask the question now because now, like I said, this year is gonna be a new champion. We already seen what the new CBA does with teams with with the money. Or the last back-to-back we had was Golden State 2017, 2018. The last three-peat we had was over 25 years, almost 25 years ago. Lakers from 2000 to 2002. Spurs won 3 out of 5 in the 2000s. We seen the Warriors dynasty, 4 and 7 years. So what only thing I'm asking, now we about to be 8 years, 8 different champions. Are dynasties dead?
Dynasties are dead. And I thought you was about to ask me if there was a possibility that either one of these teams could go back to back or be back in this situation. I am not comfortable saying that because I am elated that neither of the teams that were here last year are here. I've been elated for the last 7 years that neither of the teams that have been here are here. Yes, dynasties are dead, whether that's because of the new CBA or not.
But here's the thing, too. This is what I think. You remember that time we was, we all everything we pretty much discuss on here sometimes has been talked about offline. So we go back, we go back to the 2000s in the Western Conference. The representatives in the finals, except for 2 outlier years, you had the Mavericks. I want to say the Mavericks represented the West in 2006, and there was another team that I can't think of. But needless to say, it was Lakers, Spurs from 2000 to 2010 when it came to representing the West in the finals. On the eastern side of the conference, we had different teams from that same time frame. We had the Nets going back to back. We had the Pistons in 2004. We had the Miami Heat in 2006.
Yep.
The Cavs in 2007. And then we saw the Celtics in 2008, the Magic in 2009, and then the Celtics again in 2010. Needless to say, like I said, it was only 2 out. I want to say it was like in that 11-year stretch, I think it was just 2 outlier teams or 1 outlier series. And it was the Heat and the Mavericks in 2006 that was neither, but I mean, I'm keeping it Western Conference. So that was neither the Lakers nor the Spurs. I don't think I'm asking this. You don't think OKC and San Antonio has that same potential from I would say in the 10-year, OKC won last year, obviously. So from, a 10-season window, it can be the Spurs with a Thunder won last year, obviously. Spurs win this year, hypothetically, and then we flip-flopping like that. You don't think there's also a possibility? Because if you look at it in that sense as well, that lines up a team for having a dynasty. Like the Spurs won 3 championships in 3 and 5 years. Obviously, we're seeing the Lakers will go on a 3-peat, and then Kobe won 2 more on the back half. So do you see something like that happening as well?
I have to see it to believe it, to be honest, because I don't want to call anything a dynasty quite yet. I just don't. It's just like you said. It's been a while since you had a team be in that same range, in so many years. It's been a while since you've seen a team go to the finals twice in so many years. It's just so many anomalies right now that everything just keeps changing. So I don't put it past any franchise right now, but I'm just not comfortable saying that there's any particular franchise or anybody that's in that position to where I think it could happen.
All right. Shift focus to the Eastern Conference because, everybody like the LeBron 8 straight finals. Is that credit to a weaker Eastern Conference or is that just credit to LeBron's greatness? Or the latter. You can even choose the latter.
The best team to come out of the East is always because the rest of the East is weak. The best player in the East always shows who they are early, often. So if you look at the history of who's come out of the East, and with the exception, I think, of last year, I'll be honest, um, and that one,
That was like if this was March Madness, Pacers would
that
have
was
won
the
the title,
hottest.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that being said, when you look at, who's been in the finals the last couple of years, uh, and who the best player on their team is, and who the best player for that year on either side was, this year I feel like it was Jalen Brunson. And past years I felt like it's been Tatum, and Tatum's been able to carry his team to a NBA Finals appearance. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that Halliburton was the best player to come out of the East last year, but he was the hottest
Had the
last
chip
year.
on his shoulder, being
Yeah.
voted the most overrated. We seen that with
Um,
Chet, and he folded like laundry.
You know, back in 23 with us, it's debatable to say that Jimmy Butler was the best player to come out the East.
Do y'all consider
Again,
y'all? Do y'all consider yourself in that time frame? Do y'all consider yourself overachievers? One seed,
Overachievers.
one game away from being in the finals in 22.
Well.
Make the
I
finals in
cannot-
2020 and 2023. Make it to the finals again.
I actually say no, because in a 4-year span we made the finals twice. We could have made it three years out of that four. We did have one of the best players in the NBA for about 4 years there. So I don't really see it as overachieving. I see it as meeting the goal. And just like with the A.J. Brown situation, to compare that to the Jimmy Butler situation, all good things must come to an end. And just because it ended doesn't make it any less beautiful. We went through 4 years. We went to 2 NBA finals. We could have went to 3 coming off of one shot. And then the next year it came to an end. So that's why I think going back to that year with 23, yeah, I do feel like Jimmy Butler was the best player in the East that year. The year before that in 22, again, it was Boston and Golden State. Again, one of those years where I feel like Tatum was the best player in the East. The year before in 21 with Giannis was the best player in the East. So when it comes to the East, the best player in the East leads their team. The best player in the East usually either has the 1 seed or they ended up going to the finals.
They end up, they in the Rams. And once again, if we look at it, I want to say 2023, yep, 24, nah, not so much. Last year we had 2 small market teams. Milwaukee Bucks won in 21 as a small market. Denver won in 23. Not really a small market, but like compared to LA, Boston, New York, obviously. Even Miami, they pale in comparison. That's a small market. San Antonio now a small market. What is this wave of small market teams playing in the finals? What is that saying? Does that say more so about them being able to put enough resources around their best players, or them being able to, or the talent rising up? Because, at the same time, to keep, and also the money, still they're able to have enough money on the books to go out and
That
get
part.
this talent.
That part.
So what does this say about these small markets?
The new CBA? That's all it really is. Without the new CBA, I don't think we see any of this. I don't think, because we saw teams front loading talent, putting three of the best players and then still having enough money to keep a 4th guy on
You
roster.
gonna find some
that was-
guys that was like
Yeah.
8-time All-Stars, 9-time All-Stars. Like, come over here, like, hey, just we're gonna make sure you get we're gonna make sure we get you, but
Yeah.
just willing
Now
to
you-
sacrifice for the greater good of the team.
The new CBA is at the head of the snake, but the rest of it is development. And you see, like you said, you see a really well organization. OKC, they're able to put their pieces together. You see San Antonio, they're able to put their pieces together. You see, like we talked about, in years past, the Knicks made one coaching change, and look at where they are.
That's crazy, and we laughed at that. We laughed at it.
Yeah. So,
And then in the first round, it was like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, y'all trying to get sent home? But then they weathered the storm and won 11 straight playoff games.
And going back to a year ago, I said it. You guys disagree with me. I said, hey, if they lose out on this series, what do you guys think happens? Do you think that they should make a coaching change? And because of how close they were, y'all said no. But I told you, like, Those and it just ties into what we saying a year later. Like those are the little things that makes a difference in making a great franchise. But yeah, the money makes a big difference. Where there is no money to be spent in such a large market, like we talked about with baseball, if we went off how big a market is, then the Clippers, the Knicks,
Celtics, Knicks,
the Celtics, and Miami would have
and the
everybody.
Heat. Hell, you can low key get even the Texas teams. Ain't no state income taxes in Texas, so like either of the Texas teams, even the Grizzlies probably can eat because ain't no state taxes in Tennessee. So it's just like it's things to look at that as well. And then of course with expansion, obviously the inevitable has happened. The teams in Vegas and Seattle. It was one more thing I had to ask too, as far as we talked about OKC, well-oiled machine, but hey, even that well-oiled machine is crack starting to show in the foundation. It's going to get to a point, I don't think, obviously, they're not going to be able to keep. Basically, this team is not going to look the same next year. Whether they keep Chet and have to let Hardenstein walk, they keep Chet, keep Hardenstein, trade J-Dub. But even if they trade J-Dub, no, matter of fact, because I think Hardenstein is a team option. So either way it goes, I think Hardenstein is going to be the odd man out of this situation. And I already know where he can go. I hate to say it, but it's obvious where he can go. It's two players that I'm keying on for the Lakers this offseason. Peyton Watson and Isaiah Hartenstein. But this ain't about the Lakers right now. They're going to have to make that decision, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's way everything went, it gets to a point, like with the Rockets' whole situation, y'all missed Fred VanVleet for a whole season, so y'all should have figured out how to play with, Ben done figured out how to play without Fred VanVleet. I know playoffs are a little bit different because you play in the same team for a possible 7 games. Whatever. Okay, cool. But they figured out pretty much how to win without J-Dub. J-Dub missed like the first 25 games, I want to say, to start the season. Then he missed some more games. He didn't play that many games. Then he missed some more games in the playoffs. Then we had the Chet situation. Now we got the Giannis initially with the Knicks. Now we got Giannis possibly going to the Thunder. Depending on how this series goes for the Knicks, and depending on who the Thunder want to give up, what do you see Giannis playing next season? New York, Milwaukee, or Oklahoma City?
If I'm honest, none of those three, but I'm not sure where, and it's not Miami either. I don't think we're gonna pull the trigger on that trade.
Obviously, y'all didn't even get Dame. I mean, rightfully so. It makes looking back in retrospect, we what I'm saying, we can laugh at Pat Riley then, but retrospectively, we can look back at it now. It's like, good job by Pat. But
I don't think either.
The Milwaukee to LA pipeline, I don't think that's gonna happen either. The Milwaukee to LA pipeline, because then that would require Austin Reeves. But I think obviously Giannis can fill the void of Austin Reeves, but you still gonna have to go out and find another shooter to put in that place. At least a 3-and-D guy to put in that place of Austin Reeves. Peyton Watson, obviously.
As crazy as what I'm about to say is gonna sound,
but I don't think that Milwaukee to LA pipeline gonna strike twice for the Lakers.
As crazy as what I'm about to say sounds, I wonder how much Giannis likes the South, particularly the Southeast, particularly the Georgia region of
Atlanta Hawks.
I don't see why not. I mean, I know that's far fetched, but I don't.
I'm trying to think of the roster. We got Jalen Johnson. We got
look at what they just did.
Kuminga. We got Kuminga, Dyson Daniels. We got. You want to know something crazy?
TJ McConnell.
I can hear you out. Logically, I hear you out, but I don't think the Hawks want to break up that young core. Honestly,
maybe not.
And then we also got. Well, ain't no telling what's gonna happen in the draft with a lot of these teams, because that's the thing too. Thunder got 2 first-round picks from that Paul George trade.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I'm not sold on the fact that I think Giannis will play at either of those 3 locations, but I'm not sold that there's not a team out there that we're not looking at or thinking about.
Sleeping giant. It might be a Myles Garrett to LA situation.
Yeah. So don't sleep on somewhere like Detroit.
Giannis to the damn Clippers.
Yeah, don't sleep on Detroit. Don't sleep on Orlando.
I think Detroit would want to get another a secondary ball handler. Not saying Giannis. I mean, you know, what I'm saying Giannis does what he does, but I think more so Detroit would want to go get another shooter, especially like, and it's also if they want to pay Jalen Duren. I'm pretty sure they not finna max him all the way out like that, especially after what just happened in the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna do that. And you want to know what's something else that's not too far fetched?
Mm-hmm.
It might sound crazy. Cleveland.
It could happen. That's why I said I'm just not sold on those 3 locations, but I'm not really sold that, you know, there's not a bigger landscape for where Giannis could end up. So, you know, they're going to take the best deal that they have available to them. So, you know, that's just how I always look at it.
But I think they're gonna have the deal to where they can at least get a guy like I think Jalen Williams possibly can offer more value to them than a Chet Holmgren can, because I think Jalen Williams, like I said, he was the secondary ball handler for the Thunder, so I think he can offer more value to the Milwaukee Bucks, and they can build around him. And then now he's gonna be the number 1 guy now, so it might be a little bit different from him. Like everybody keying on Shea, you know, J-Dub being the all, you know, saying the secondary ball handler can go out there and get 40 points in the finals when you got an MVP on your team, but it's a little bit different. You know, Jalen Williams obviously wasn't going out requesting trades like Kyrie was, because he wanted to be the man and be the captain of his own ship versus the being on LeBron's ship, and we see how that turned out. Kyrie kind of, you know, just being young and bullheaded, you know, and we don't see that from J-Dub, but I think J-Dub will offer more value to Milwaukee than Chet. And then, like I said, obviously with Giannis, if you bring Giannis to OKC, like I said, Hardenstein is gone, and Hardenstein might even be a part of that deal if, you know what I'm saying, in a sign and trade situation, if he don't just leave on his own, because you can't have Giannis and Chet, Giannis out there. You can't, you know what I'm saying, Chet gonna have to, it's natural, let the power forward pretty much. So there's that. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but let's keep it on to the finals. I before the playoffs started, you said we all said it didn't matter who was coming. Well, I ain't gonna say we, but you know we was talking. It's like, hey, it didn't matter who came out the East. They gonna lose to either the Spurs or OKC. I want to see if things have changed in a month and a half. Because I know I already stated my pick publicly. I'm going Spurs in 6, a legit 6.
I don't got a amount of games, but my identity with that still has not changed. The winner, you know, to me comes out of the West. You know, I am cheering for the Knicks in this series. You know, by way of additional fandom, but there is a guy in black and white that's wearing number 1 this series.
Best player in the league already at 22 years old.
And as long as he shows up, you got something on your hands.
And you know what's crazy as far as like his impact is so great that on the offensive end he don't even have to put up numbers, because like on the defensive end where his most value is, teams have to change how they attack the basket, even how the trajectory of their shots are even different.
It's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, you got a battered. And by battered, I mean, you know, he's obviously injured the most
Fresh
important.
Fresh out the surgery, Mr. Robinson.
He's injured the most important part that you could have. It's definitely something to see with Cat and how Cat responds to having to play, you know, Wemby for a number of games. Foul trouble's really big in this one. You know, obviously the Knicks don't have a Chet out there, and Chet wasn't much of a, you know, a viable asset against Wemby in the last series where they had Hardenstein. They had smaller guys defending Wemby more than they had. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be good. Becky Hammon, former assistant coach for the Spurs, said last week that she does not believe that a small player. She didn't say any particular position. She was really speaking about the guard spot, but she did say that she did not believe that anybody that was small in the NBA could lead a team to an NBA championship. And I didn't really, as a smaller person.
Talking about Michelle Beadle? I think Michelle Beadle said that.
No, Becky Hammon said it.
Oh, yeah, I'm tripping. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I read into it to make sure, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be good to see.
But the way the NBA is just set up now, and then you say a smaller guard, I mean, Steph only like 6'2".
We're
And
talking about
the
the
big,
greatest shooter of all time.
but the biggest knock on Steph coming into the league was his size. So,
We're
you know
talking
what I'm
about the
saying?
greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah. Most definitely,
Yeah.
Even Isaiah
And
Thomas
I'm
at 5'9" was an MVP candidate at one point before that injury.
Yeah,
So it's
and
just
I'm
like,
not saying
he just
I'm
happened to
not-
run into LeBron, but they was gonna lose to the Warriors anyway. But you get the point.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to down Bronson because I
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
truly appreciate what he does on the floor, but I'm just saying that from a I get it standpoint. Like, I mean, it's gonna be a good series either way it goes. That's just point blank. Like,
Yeah.
we here now. We less than an hour away
know
from
what I'm
tip off in real time, but we here now.
Rubber's about to meet the road, fellas. Like I said, this team, they played 3 times in the NBA Cup, and obviously the 2 regular season games. Knicks got the best of them. I remember the Spurs were coming in white hot, winning every game in the month of February. Then the clock turned to March 1st, and the first game they lose to was the New York Knicks. But like I said, I'm staying pat on my pick. I think, like I said, I just hope, But what do you think plays out more in tonight's game? Do we get a situation where the Spurs coming in off that, emotional series, emotion is just high? Or do we get the Knicks having that long layoff in that rust? So what do we think this game 1 is like? When it comes down to it, whoever was on the losing side, what do we think is going to be the primary reason for the losing side?
It's whoever can make the adjustment the quickest and run with it from there. I don't think when you know that you only got a guaranteed 4 games ahead of you, I don't think that there is any amount. And we talked about this with the Super Bowl. We talked about this with the national championship, and we talk about stuff like this, and we lived through this situation. So we saw guys, ahead of us, upperclassmen that were beaten up, bruised, battered, going to the state championship. And I don't think that stopped any of them from going into that game and giving everything they had, knowing that they only had 60 minutes left. I say that to say, like, I don't think there's any amount of rest because both of these teams are coming off at least three or 4 days of rest. So, so it's not like
the Knicks' last game was, I think, but
a week ago.
I think the Knicks' last game was. It seemed like the Knicks' last game was damn near before. It might have been, but it seemed like the series was over before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So
it seems like more than that. But
in NBA time, they really had about 2 weeks off. If we been, with how the schedules lined up in the NBA.
I mean, obviously, rust from not playing real game action is, a real thing. I think the biggest advantage that the Spurs have tonight is the fans and them being at home, them sleeping in their own bed.
First finals game in 12 years, and obviously the Knicks, it wasn't even a new millennium yet. It was 99, and like I said, these 2 teams faced off. They always give the flack for LeBron winning the finals in a lockout-ridden season. The Spurs, when they won their first championship in 99, they only played 50 games. So it's just like, we'll never give Tim Duncan flack for that, greatest power forward ever. But
who can weather the storm tonight is the biggest thing. For everybody that's on that floor tonight, like you said, with the exception of Harrison Barnes, it is their very first NBA Finals game. Who can stay locked in? Who can weather the storm? Who can shake the nerves? Who can get the butterflies out their stomach the fastest? Who can get past the pageantry? Who can really focus and play the game the way the game needs to be played tonight is what it really comes down to. Obviously, if you watched last series and you saw game 1 of last series, Wemby had a day. And I believe that the 2 best players on both sides of this coin, being Jalen Brunson and Wemby, are going to give it their all for every game that they're a part of.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see how – I know they don't have a head-to-head matchup, but I'm interested to see how they influence their
impact.
teams.
Like I said, Bronson kind of needs to put the ball in the basket to score. Wemby, like I said, Wemby impact goes so much greater than scoring. Like, it's just like – him being on the floor is just, it's just too much attention, especially on defense, on the defensive end, which makes up half of the basketball game, which mainly should have been one of the reasons he should have got the MVP, but that's neither here nor there. So it's like he's building himself an edge feel like he got snubbed. So, you know what I'm saying? Then he's watching the player receive the trophy in the first game, and he goes out there and had a 40-20 game with what, like 3 blocks, 5 blocks, or whatever. So it's just, you know what I'm saying? And then it's just Wemby. He's bringing some of that old school passion back to the game. I ain't trying to be all friends. I'm trying to go at y'all. I'm here to win, man. I'm here to handle business. You know what I'm saying? Just being rough and tough out there. But like you said, I still think Brunson will put up a big game. But it's just like the Spurs. They got all, you know what I'm saying? You heard what Mike Brown said. Hey, we just attacked James Harden, even a little bit of Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, who? What's the weak point y'all can attack on the Spurs? Because they can throw 3 or 4 different guards at you. They can throw, you know what I'm saying, Castle, De'Aaron Fox. They can throw what's my guy name? Dylan Harper at you. You know what I'm saying? They just got guys out there on defense that can, you know, play at a high level on the defensive end. They can just throw at Bronson. So it's gonna be a little different. It's gonna be a little challenging. And I feel like, you know, so they could kind of like take him out of the series a little bit and make him struggle, kind of like the Spurs did. You know, obviously they got a better roster than the Cavaliers did in '07, basically. But when they basically like took LeBron out of the series pretty much and ended up sweeping the Cavs, so it's just a bit, you know, it's all gonna come down to this. You know what I'm saying? This first game is really gonna set the tone for how this series goes and what adjustments gonna be made. So it's but it's pretty much all I got, man. You know what I'm saying? We were waiting tip off. Like you said, we less than an hour away now. So, yeah, go ahead and get up out of here, man, and come back and, you know, reassemble probably, you know, going in the game 3. Ain't no point in doing recap
Breakdown,
game by game. Like, yeah. So, but, you know, once again, thank y'all for tuning in. We, you know what I'm saying, we slowly but surely are getting ready to approach back up into the football season. I know we still yet to, like, go through the NFL schedule and see the marquee matchups. You know, of course, talk about the 9 overseas games now. And, you know, that game in Australia might hit a little different for the Rams and 49ers now with the addition of Myles Garrett. But it's going to be an interesting series, man. It's going to be an interesting turn of events. That's pretty much all I got, though, man. You got anything you want to add?
Nah, man. I mean, I'm just ready to watch this and see what happens, honestly.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, shout out to Drizzle Mumps, man. You know, got the you know, best in the business when it comes to being on that diamond. You know, getting that POV look. You know, saying the real softball Saturday. That's what I was told. So, but yeah, man, I thank y'all tuning in another episode. Let me say this: I be Anthony Likes. I'm with my guy Dre Davis.